The outpost on Kelvar 9 had been abandoned for 3 cycles. At least that's what the Confederation fleet records indicated. The facility sat on the frozen moon like a wound in the ice. Hull breaches leaking atmosphere into the void. Reactor signatures dead. Life support flickering in its final throes. Captain Arlen stood on the bridge of the Steadfast, staring at the tactical display. The outpost had been a research station, home to 24 Kelith scientists studying quantum anomalies near the system's black hole. When the pirate raid came, the distress signal had been brief. By the time Confederation ships arrived, the raiders were gone, and the station was dying. "Standard salvage protocol, Captain?" his first officer asked. Arlen's jaw tightened. "No, we're going in." The officer's ears flattened, a Kelith gesture of confusion. "Sir, the station is compromised." "Regulation state." "I know what regulation state, Commander Vriss." Arlen's voice was quiet but firm. "Prep a shuttle. Full rescue configuration." Vriss hesitated. The Kelith were a practical species, pragmatic to their core. They understood cost-benefit analysis, resource management, acceptable losses. The station was broken. The research was lost. The logical course was salvage, not rescue. But Vriss had served with humans long enough to recognize that particular tone in Arlen's voice. It was the one that meant logic had met something humans valued more. The shuttle descended through the station's damaged docking bay, atmosphere bleeding around them in crystalline plumes. Arlen's team moved through corridors lit only by emergency strips, their breath visible in the freezing air. They found the survivors in a sealed laboratory deep in the station's core. 11 Kelith scientists huddled around a failing heater, their fur matted with frost. Among them were 3 cubs, children of the research staff, their wide eyes reflecting the rescue team's lights. "We didn't think," one of the scientists began, voice hoarse. "We didn't think anyone would come." Arlen knelt beside the cubs, his expression softening. "We came, that's what we do." The evacuation took 6 hours. Arlen's team worked methodically, stabilizing the survivors, rigging temporary life support, and hauling equipment through damaged sections where one wrong step meant exposure to vacuum. They could have simply beamed the survivors out and left, but Arlen insisted on recovering personal effects, research data, even the cubs' toys from their quarters. "Captain, we're exceeding mission parameters," Vriss reported over comms. "The station could decompress at any moment." "Noted, Commander. Continue operations." When the last survivor was aboard the Steadfast, the youngest cub, a female named Tavi, clutched a recovered datapad to her chest and stared up at Arlen with enormous golden eyes. "Why did you come back for our things?" she asked in halting standard. Arlen smiled tiredly. "Because they're important to you. That makes them important to us." 3 years later, the saying began appearing in Kelith military academies, whispered among cadets during survival training. Humans don't leave broken things. It wasn't just about Kelvar 9. There were other incidents. The damaged destroyer that human engineers spent 2 weeks rebuilding instead of scuttling. The colony ship with failed engines that a human cruiser towed for 8 light years to the nearest port. The wounded Kelith pilot extracted from a crashed fighter in hostile territory when any other species would have written him off as lost. The Kelith Confederation, practical and efficient, had built their military doctrine on calculated risk and acceptable loss. But humans operated on a different principle entirely. They didn't abandon ships that could be repaired, soldiers that could be saved, or missions that could be completed even when the math said they should. Commander Vriss, now serving as liaison to the human fleet, tried to explain it to the Confederation High Command. They view broken things as challenges, not losses. A damaged ship is a ship that can be fixed. A trapped soldier is a soldier that can be rescued. It's not about efficiency, it's about principle. "Principle doesn't win wars," a general countered. "Perhaps not alone," Vriss replied, "but it wins allies." The turning point came during the Void War, when the parasitic Kresh swarm swept through the frontier systems. The Confederation fleet fought with precision and discipline, falling back in organized retreats when positions became untenable. They conserved resources, preserved their fleet strength, and made the logical decisions. The humans fought differently. When the colony world of Theravan fell to Kresh ground forces, the Confederation fleet prepared to evacuate orbit. The planet was lost. 50,000 Kelith civilians remained on the surface, cut off from evacuation zones, scattered across hundreds of kilometers of hostile terrain. Captain Arlen, now an admiral commanding the human contingent, broadcast on all channels. "We're going down. The planet is lost," the Keleth admiral protested. "We cannot risk the fleet for—" "We can and we will." Arlen's tone left no room for argument. "Form a perimeter. We're extracting those civilians." For 72 hours, human ships maintained orbit under constant crush fire. Dropships descended in waves not to safe zones but to wherever survivors were located. Rural settlements, isolated bunkers, even individual family groups separated by kilometers of enemy-held territory. Human Marines fought street by street, building by building, carrying wounded Keleth on their backs and laying down suppressing fire so others could escape. They lost 3 destroyers holding the orbital perimeter. 200 Marines died on the ground. By every conventional military analysis, the operation was a catastrophic waste of resources. But 47,000 Keleth civilians came home. Tavi was 17 cycles old when she enlisted in the Confederation fleet. She'd grown up hearing the stories, watching the footage, learning the lessons that her people were slowly beginning to understand. During her first briefing, the instructor, a grizzled human sergeant, noticed the data pad she carried. "Old and worn but meticulously maintained. That looks like a relic." "Cadet," he observed. Tavi's ears perked up with pride. "It's from Kelvar 9, Sergeant. Captain Arlen recovered it for me." The sergeant's expression softened with recognition. "You're the cub from the outpost." "Yes, Sergeant." She met his eyes steadily. "Humans don't leave broken things. That's what we learned. That's what I want to be part of." The saying had evolved beyond its origins. It wasn't just about physical objects anymore. It was about never abandoning what could be saved, never accepting that something was too damaged to matter, never leaving anyone behind who could be brought home. The Keleth Confederation had been shaped by millennia of practical survival. They'd learned to cut losses, to accept the inevitable, to make the hard calculations. But the humans taught them something different. That sometimes the hardest choice isn't accepting what's broken, but refusing to accept it at all. Admiral Arlen stood on the bridge of his flagship, now the Unbroken, watching a rescue operation unfold on the tactical display. A Keleth cruiser had taken critical damage in an engagement, its crew trapped with failing life support. The logical choice was to evacuate via transporter and let the hulk drift. Instead, the entire human task force had formed a protective cordon while engineers worked to restore the cruiser's systems. Commander Vriss, now Captain Vriss of her own vessel, appeared on his screen. "Admiral, the cruiser's reactor is online. Estimate 4 hours to minimum operational capacity." Arlen nodded with satisfaction. "Well done, Captain. We'll escort them home." "Sir," Vriss said, her ears tilting in what humans had learned to recognize as a Keleth smile. "This is highly inefficient." "I know," Arlen replied, "but it's what we do." Across the fleet, human and Keleth ships maintained their formation, holding the line until their damaged comrade could return to the fight. Because humans had taught them a simple truth. Broken things aren't losses. They're just things that haven't been fixed yet, and humans don't leave broken things behind.